Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly dose of the rundown. Joined in, of course, my brother from another co-host all the way from the Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. A lot of exciting things happen, but I'm a Giants fan, so I'm not doing that great. But a lot of other exciting things happen. We got to start it off. Opening night. The NBA is back, baby. So we had a doubleheader last night. The Brooklyn Nets against the Milwaukee Bucks. A lot of news coming out of Brooklyn with this whole Kyrie Irving situation. And I will tell you what the Brooklyn Nets look affected by, because they just came out there and did not look like they had any energy at all. Their rotation, starting lineup anyway. Nick Claxton got the start at the 5. You got Joe Harris, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and then Blake Griffin. Out of that, Joe Harris only scoring 9. Harden with a nice smooth 28 and 8. KD doing what he does with a 32, 11, and 4. Claxton 12 and 7, and then Blake Griffin only scoring 6 points, 5 rebounds, which isn't bad. Patty Mills off the bench though, 21, 2 and 2. And I mean, that was pretty much it for the Nets. That not much help outside of that. Milwaukee, Chris Mitty with the nice 29 and 3. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 32, 14 and 7. Drew Holiday, 12, 1 and 1. And then, Connaughton out there with 20 and 3. Then you got this kid New Orleans with a 15 and 6. The Bucks look in championship form. It was a ring ceremony, and they definitely made sure that they were doing what they had to do when putting that banner up, man. So what did you see in that game?
Yeah, definitely. I actually thought the Nets would come out and get this one. I think Patty Mills, he showed why he'll be a big pickup for them, especially with Kyrie being out right now. I just think the Bucks probably came out with more energy in this one. I think the Nets would be all right. Obviously, I don't think it's time to panic, even with all the Kyrie stuff going on. I just think that, like I said, I think the Bucks came out. It was championship night. They came out with a lot of energy. Giannis played great. I still don't think I would pick the Bucks right now to beat them in the series, but shout out to them. It was ring night, a lot of energy out there. So, no, I don't think there's too much to take from this game. I think the Nets will be fine. I don't think Kyrie thing is hurting them too much, and then I think going forward, it's just the first game out there. The Nets got a couple new pieces, so that's all. I don't think there's too much to take from this game.
I think a lot of people are frustrated over there with the Kyrie situation, especially with the new stuff that came out regarding that. I could kind of understand Kyrie's whole thinking on it if it was, I don't want to take the vaccine because I don't feel comfortable taking the vaccine. But when he came out and said, I have no issue taking the vaccine, it's more of me being a voice for the voiceless. I take a little issue with that off the sense that you signed this contract because you're going into this saying, me and KD, we want to come here, we want to win a championship. And when you sign that contract, it's you saying, I'm going to be here for my teammates, and now you coming in there and saying, I'm not taking the vaccine. And then on top of it, it has nothing to do with what we thought it was. It's a little shaky to me off the fact that, like, I'm thinking about being there for your teammates and doing thing, making sacrifices for the sake of winning a championship. So I don't know. That's just a little. I like actually firmly believe, like, you can't convince me otherwise because of how we kind of things go in Brooklyn. Like, KD's kind of become like what we've all said LeBron is, where decisions are run by him. I like firmly believe if KD wanted the original factors coming into this, if Kyrie was only going to play away games, if KD was cool with that, Kyrie would have played last night. But I think KD gave them the A-OK to say he's not going to be around until he's vaccinated.
I think it's possible. I think I'm not too mad at Kyrie. I kind of stand with Kyrie, man, a little bit. I get what he's doing. If you've seen what Kyrie has done before, you've seen he has no problem standing up. He was one of those guys who was voicing that they shouldn't go to the bubble and things like that. So he's one of those people who are going to stand up in situations like that. So I understand what you're saying about coming together with your teammates and things like that. But if you've seen Kyrie and seen what he does, he's always tried to stand up for kind of bigger things than that. And I guess he's willing to take the hit. At the end of the day, it's his decision. It's his money if that's what he wants to do. But I stand behind him, even if some people don't agree with what he's doing or how he's doing it or what he's going about it. But I think the Nets would be fine. Sure, maybe KD signed off on it, but he's kind of in a situation where it's like it's only so much he can do. I'm really sure he stood up for Kyrie in other situations, and this is kind of a situation where it's like it's gonna have to be what it's gonna be, and they're gonna have to go from there.
Well, the whole thing came out. So it was reported that Kyrie, it was reported that KD and Harden met up with each other to talk about the situation with Kyrie. Then, like, I want to say an hour, 2 hours after that was reported was when it came out that Kyrie was going to be away from the team until he was vaccinated. So that right there was already like red flag. Like, okay, they just talked about this, and then this comes out. Like, now I have a whole bunch of other questions that I'm probably not going to get answered anytime soon. But I have my beliefs now in that information.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you listen to what Kyrie said it in his live, he talked about how he had no problem with the Nets organization and kind of what they decided to do. So it is, like I said, it is what it is. KD probably did have to sign off on it, but like I said, KD's probably had to stick up for Kyrie in some other situations. And this is a tough one to be like, okay, he's going to be a part time player. You can see why the organization could be mad at that. So I don't think, honestly, at a certain extent, it's kind of like maybe if KD really fought for it, sure, but they kind of maybe pulled this hand a little bit too, where he probably didn't have too much saying it. Obviously, he had to say, but it's like,
Well, I mean, he's gotten this. He's gotten everything that he's asked for. He didn't want Kenny Atkinson there. He wanted Steve Nash. They made it happen. He wanted James Harden on the Nets. They pulled the trigger on that. Like everything he's asked for since he ended up in Brooklyn, he's gotten. So I mean, like when you get something like this, it's like, like okay,
yeah. But I'm saying, like, it's like we gave you everything you asked for. The Nets organization probably had a lot of pushback for it, so he probably just went with it. He's kind of like, there's only so much you can do for Kyrie. He's allowed the guy to take days off. He's allowed him to do a whole bunch of other things, but fight for him to be a part time player. The organization probably gave more pushback for that. And there's probably some people in the organization who really care about people being vaccinated and things like that. So it could be a bigger issue than just what it is. Some people have been taking this personally. Even if you look in the media and things that people are saying, people are taking it personally that he hasn't been vaccinated. So some people who are there who are strong on vaccinations and things like that, probably taking it personally. So it's probably something that the organization or certain people stood up for more than, hey, Kyrie's going to be gone for 2 weeks.
well, like I said, for me and for from what I've seen from a lot of people, it's not taking it personally. I can only speak for myself. I had no issue with him being unvaccinated. I'm all for, making a choice that you think is best for you, especially if your beliefs are, you have strong beliefs for specific reasons. But now it was just like my opinion on it with him changed when he said he has no issue with taking the vaccine. He's all for taking the vaccine, but he's not going to take it because of wanting to be a voice, like,
Uh,
but that's just me.
someone has to. There's a lot of people losing their job over this. And if you think about it, first of all, some of the rules don't even make sense because Kyrie can, Bradley Beal is unvaccinated. He can go in New York and play. But Kyrie, since he lives there, can't play. So some of these rules kind of don't make sense. Some
Are you
people,
sure about that? I
yeah,
thought I thought it was I thought it was any player unvaccinated coming into San Francisco or New York can't play.
Bradley Beal played in the preseason game. Any away teams, if you're unvaccinated, you can go and play there. It's just if you live there, you have to at least have one dose of a vaccine shot.
What are you
Rules don't
gonna
make
do?
no sense. And there's people really losing their job over this who probably can't afford to lose their job. And it's like when anytime you force things on people, people are gonna question it. And at this point, it's being forced on the people a little bit. So he's standing up for something, and I stand with him for that.
All right. That's a topic we can dive more into further. Let's get into this the other opening night. Well, unless you had anything else you wanted to add on that Bucks and Nets game.
No, that was about it. Like I said, it's not. I don't think it's time to panic on either side. I think
Yes,
the Bucks came out and played well.
it's game one. You shouldn't be panicking about anything with game one, and that's a nice segue into the game in the second half of that broadcast, which is Lakers Warriors. Now, we had a ton of questions. Excuse me. We had a ton of questions regarding the Lakers rotation, and I know there's a couple players that didn't play because they just were hurt. So we still have a little bit of questions, but for the most part, we got answers. They went with a starting five of LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Kent Bazemore, and DeAndre Jordan. Then your six man, Carmelo Anthony, Rajon Rondo came in after that. Then Malik Monk, Dwight Howard, and Avery Bradley. So, basically because Ariza, is hurt. Taylor Horton Tucker, is he dealing with any injuries right now? I think he might be.
I'm not sure, but if he didn't play, I figured he's probably has an injury. That's someone that they're
Yeah.
high
And
on.
then the same thing can be said for Kendrick Nunn. So I'm not really mad at the rotation too much. I like having Kent Bazemore as your starter. And again, I brought this up. A lot of people bring this up when it comes to starters and bench players. It's not about who starts the game; it's about who finishes it. So I wasn't mad about the whole Kent Bazemore thing. I know Kay, you're going to get into this a little more because your opinion on it differs from mine a little bit. For the people that want to talk about Russell Westbrook struggling in that game and things like that, we got to remember with this team, we had a ton of questions about fit, how's it going to work, and things like that. And these are guys that have never really played together, outside of LeBron and AD. And Dwight was a former teammate, same with Rajon Rondo. But this is pretty much a brand new team. And one thing we know about most LeBron James led teams is they struggled early on before finally putting it together. And I think we had a show where I talked about this. I'm expecting this team to run on all cylinders by January, February. I didn't expect them to come out the gate guns a blazing. When it comes to Russell Westbrook, though, I mean, he just to me looked like a guy that was just trying to, fit in, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's coming out right, but like just kind of play his part more than be him. Like if you look at some of the passes he was making, it was more of it looked to me like he was hesitating on whether he should make the pass or just go for it himself at certain points. I thought him playing on the floor at the same time as Rajon Rondo was not a great move at all. It just doesn't make sense at all I mean, strictly from a basketball perspective. No, I know that those two are great minds and can do great things as far as thinking wise, but them two on the court together just not a great fit. So that was just one of my issues. And I mean, it wasn't like they looked terrible as a team. They ended up losing. They actually blew a lead, but they didn't look terrible. So I think it's just that they got to work some things out. LeBron actually, was questioned about it after the game, and he said Russ is very hard on himself, and he told him he needs to dial it back when it comes to the critique of himself.
Yeah, I think some of the lineups are questionable. You brought up Rondo and Westbrook. I didn't think they should have been out there a lot. I think they talked about all summers about AD playing a lot more at power forward. I mean at center, and most of the time when Westbrook was on the court, he was on there with either Braun running the point or Rondo running the point, and then there was a center out there. I don't think those are the greatest lineups for Westbrook. I think Charles Barkley brought it up after the game. Maybe you play him a lot more with that second unit and speed up the second unit, and then you play smaller in that sense. But I think the lineups were kind of questionable. As a lot of times he was off ball, kind of just standing around. But I think if you're gonna obviously you're gonna have to play him with LeBron. I think if you look at the beginning of that Kings game during the preseason, you had Westbrook cutting back doors and things like that. I think that'd be a good option if you can get Westbrook moving. But I think some of the lineups maybe they just wanted to play around and try some things out. But I think they're gonna have to have him less time with Rondo on the court, obviously, and less time with the center, and more with maybe him and AD, uh, with AD at center and Westbrook running the point, and also down the stretch, they started giving the ball to Russell Westbrook to run the offense, which really didn't make no sense to me. I figured down the stretch, you let Russ run the offense for most of the game, and then down the stretch, you probably put it in Bron's hands, which didn't really make no sense to me. They went to a lot of Russ and AD pick and roll, but first game, I think they're gonna have to try to win this championship the same way that 2020 team won the championship, and that's probably by playing defense. So the defense got away from them late in that third quarter, and then kind of early in that fourth quarter when he kind of lost the game there. So I think those are things that probably be changed moving forward. I think it's anyone can see that those two guys shouldn't be out there together.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly as far as what they should and shouldn't do. Because one of the things that, yeah, I'm a big defender of Russ, but one thing I can't defend is his IQ late in games. So it would make even when you think about the construction of the team, like it kind of makes perfect sense when you have those two where because he's a great point guard, man. I'll say that to the death, like to the end. He is a great point guard. It's just those end of the game decisions. So it would make perfect sense when you have him and LeBron on the same team that he's kind of just running things up until late in the fourth. You can let LeBron, who's a proven commodity and a great basketball IQ of his own, kind of take over there. What else was there in that? Well, I mean, you hit everything on the head, which is crazy to me that Frank Vogel, who championship coach and showed that he was a good coach with his first stint in Indiana when he had those guys over there in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row, like one like seconds away from going to the NBA Finals. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It just makes no sense to me with some of those things that he was doing. But I think like moving forward, he'll probably change some things up. I mean, when you get guys like Trevor Ariza and Kendrick Nunn back, and maybe Taylor Horton Tucker, that'll help as well. But this team, the Lakers really just wasn't a lot of production from a lot of their bench players either. Like Rondo's going to do his thing. Carmelo Anthony look phenomenal coming off the bench. But I guess they got to get their guys back, and then like smarter decision making from the coaching staff on these rotations.
Definitely, I think Melo should have played more in the second half. He came out and had an all right first half, but I think as time goes forward, they're gonna know they like it. I think the problem here is I think they want to mimic a lot of that 2020 team that won the championship, and they won the championship, like I said, playing defense, and they want it staying big. So I think a lot of times when things kind of hit the fan or when he tries to make up his lineups, he kind of reverts back to the same thing. So that's why you see a DeAndre Jordan out there a lot. You see Dwight out there a lot. You see Russell Westbrook out there a lot with a center out there. But I think as time goes on, he's gonna have to adjust to kind of what's happening out there, and I think he will. And Mighty Fresh just brought it up. Bron said that they're gonna have to have obviously chemistry is gonna be a big thing, and I picked the Warriors to win this game because I figured the Warriors have been together for a while, and they'll come out. And the Lakers had a lot of things to kind of figure out. So going forward, I think they'll be all right. Obviously, Russell Westbrook didn't play great, and that's nothing to panic about. But I also think he wasn't put in the best situations when you really kind of look at what was going on out there. So hopefully moving forward, they make the adjustments, and I think they will.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to add before we move on here was the whole deal. I've been saying it for the longest since he got to Brooklyn. Like, why is DeAndre when you just brought in Dumbuya and then you got Dwight Howard over there? Why is DeAndre Jordan your starting center? DeAndre Jordan is not a starting center in the NBA anymore. I'm sorry, he's not the same player he was in LA. Like, he's just not.
You know what?
In his game,
I don't mind him starting. I just don't think it should be a lot of minutes. And obviously with matchups, you kind of match up. I don't mind him starting. But like you said, it all depends on who finishes. So I don't mind him starting, but he shouldn't be playing he shouldn't be playing a lot of minutes.
It does all depend on who finishes. But I mean, like they did it in the NBA Finals. And they had, like, I'm going to say something that some people might think it's crazy, but it's true. JaVale McGee is a better player right now than DeAndre Jordan is. They had a better center in the 2020 NBA Finals, and they chose to go with Dwight in the starting lineup. Like, Dwight should be your starting center right now at this point. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, DeAndre Jordan is just not that guy no more. Like, not only should he be playing less minutes, I don't want him in the starting lineup. Like, that's another thing. Like, stop trying to massage these guys' egos, man. Like, it happened to him in Brooklyn. He wasn't even in the rotation in Brooklyn at one point. Like, let's be real. Let's just be real about it. You're not that guy. Like the one dude at the grocery store said on that viral video. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
Well, it had to be something that they're seeing in practice that they like for them to start him. So like I said, I don't mind him starting too much. I don't mind him getting minutes. They need someone that's going to protect the rim. But like I said, this goes to me. It goes back to them looking. Is Frank Vogel converting back to that 2020 team? I think even some of a lot of these players think about you. You don't know. You say you don't know why they signed Avery Bradley. I think when they look at this team, they kind of convert back, and they maybe want to get back to that 2020 team. So I don't think this is going to be that. I think they're going to have to hang their head on defense again if they want to win. But that's all from the 2020 team.
Yeah, like I said, I got no problem with him getting minutes. You saying it's things that they might see in practice. I don't know what they're seeing in practice because a lot of the decision making as far as rotations go yesterday was not the greatest. But I digress. So there's another thing going on in the NBA. It's been big with the Philadelphia 76ers. We've been talking about it all summer.
Crybaby
This whole
Ben.
Ben Simmons. What's up?
I said crybaby Ben.
Crybaby Ben. Crybaby Ben. I've been a defender of Ben Simmons. You know, I've always said I think he's going to be a great player in this league. And I gotta go to Rich Paul on this. How can you let your client act this way? Number one, with all the experience you have and all the type of players you've dealt with, that's number one. But number two, I have heard that Ben Simmons has way too many yes men in his circle, not enough people that's going to tell him the things that he doesn't want to hear but needs to hear. So we've seen the videos of him being slow to get in certain situations in practice. There was one video where his phone was in his pocket and the screen was on. And that, like, what happened what happened yesterday, I have not heard of anything like this in the pros. This is stuff that you hear about in like high school, not even high school. You hear about this in high school. He got sent home. He's go home because he told him to go get in his set. And he told Doc, no, he just said, just go home then. Like, you gotta be kidding. And does he realize? Here's my biggest thing. Do you not realize? Because a lot of reasons why certain players' careers just don't work out is because they just don't have the IQ or maturity to realize when they're being more detrimental to themselves than they are anybody else. So he's being more detrimental to himself than he is the 76ers. Do you realize that what you're doing is it really doesn't hurt the Sixers? The Sixers are going to be a competitive team in the regular season regardless. Obviously, they need somebody there for the playoffs, but they're going to be a competitive team for the regular season. So do you realize that what you're doing hurts you way more than it's ever going to hurt them? Like, he's being a child. Shout out. Remember when we had Jay and my man Dante on? I'm going to shout out Dante for this because he didn't call this out, but he did say a good reference for this. It's like when you tell a kid they can't have their ice cream until they eat their broccoli. Like, he wants to have all this superstar stuff, but doesn't do the things that you need to do to really be a superstar in this game. He's being a child. He's being a child.
Yeah, well, my man Meech said that he would want to trade to get away from Doc too. But
we're not gonna get Meech. Look, and Meech convinced me on his point too, but we're not going that lane today. We're not going that lane today because we're at the end of the day, what it really is Ben Simmons' feelings got hurt at the end of last season.
Yeah, I can't blame Rich Paul too much. I think Rich Paul is probably part of the reason why Ben Simmons ended up going to Philly's training camp, but it's only so much you can do. He's dealt with other clients, but he's probably never dealt with another client that act like a baby like this. There's only so much he can do. He's not his father. He probably told him, like, listen, Ben, if you want to get traded, you got to go here. You get along with these people. You know, what anyone would do. James Harden wanted to get a trade. They said he came in a little out of shape, but he went out there, he played. He had 40-something in his first game. And Rich Paul is probably just trying to direct his client, but you got to keep your client happy. But he can't go out and play for Ben Simmons, so he probably got Ben Simmons to go. And you've seen what he did when he got there. He's just acting like a little kid. So there's only so much Rich Paul can do. I think this all falls back on Ben Simmons and him kind of acting like a child. And like you said, I don't think that's going to get him where he needs to be. I think he needs to pull a Harden Go in there, play as hard as he can, drop 40, do whatever he needs to do, show people that he wants to play, and then he can get out of there quicker than what in the way he wants to. And then he keeps saying that it's not his job to boost his trade market, but it's also not it's Sixers' job to really do that either and give him up for nothing. So it's just going to be at a standstill. I've been saying, and I said this to you for a while now. If a guy's unhappy, you get him out of town as quick as possible before it gets to something like this. I was saying that when it happened with James Harden. I'm gonna say it now. I would have been traded Ben. I'd have took that De'Aaron Fox deal, but now this is a situation that they're in, and then some executives have been saying like, sure, you could probably make a trade for him and he'll be happy with you, but then when the shoe's on the other foot and he's not happy with you guys no more, this is how he's gonna react. So, like you said, he's really hurting himself more than he's hurting the Sixers. I guess at the end of the day, the Sixers get hurt a little bit because they're losing the superstar talent, but they're not gonna give him up for nothing. So they're at a standstill until someone gives in.
At this point, like you have no choice. Like you dragged it out too much. Like they had a couple of good deals on the table that would have really put them in the driver's seat to be champion, especially with what's going on in Brooklyn. Had a couple of deals where we could have called them the favorites in the East, even with the Bucks coming off a championship. Like they had a deal in place where they could have brought D'Angelo Russell to Philly. I think D'Angelo Russell fits beautifully in Philly for what they're looking for, and they said no. So you know what? They kind of put themselves in this position as well. And where is Daryl Morey? I want to know where Daryl Morey is with all this going on. Why hasn't he said anything?
I think Daryl Morey's there. If you looked at Daryl Morey's history, he's not willing to trade a star player for anything less than what he believes would be a star. So I just don't think he thought D'Angelo Russell was on that same level, or they would have made the trade. Like I said, I would have took the De'Aaron Fox and maybe a couple other pieces from the Kings trade. But
here's the thing, and it's the same thing we said with the Houston Rockets and James Harden, and they kind of just gave in on it at a point where they're like, we have to take something at this point. You're never going to get true equal value, especially when you're looking for a player in return. You're never going to get true equal value when you're giving up a disgruntled superstar. So you need all the first round picks you can. If you can get a player close to what you're giving up, then you're good. And when the compensation is D'Angelo Russell or De'Aaron Fox, well, that was the other thing. The Kings weren't really open to giving up De'Aaron Fox. But but I know that they were open to giving up Buddy Hield, which it helps the Sixers, but I still think they really need that point guard in there. When you're getting something close to what you're giving up, that you got to take it. Like that's as close of a win as you're going to get.
Yeah, but like I said, Daryl Morey's history has shown that he's not willing to do that. He's willing to hold off. And I think a lot of the thing is, I think the Sixers believe that they could fix whatever was wrong that was going on there. Obviously, I think they see now, and everyone can see now, that it's not going to be able to get fixed. But I think that they thought that they could probably fix the issue. And obviously, that's not the case. So Philly, I think, like you're saying, if you can get something close to that, I just think they need to get a very solid point guard back in that spot. Because even at this point, to me, you could get a player that's not as talented as Ben Simmons, but fits better with y'all system, like a better point guard that fits better with y'all system. And it would look like a win for you guys when everything is probably said and done.
But that's exactly why I said, like, you should have took the D'Lo deal. You know what I mean?
I'm taking the De'Aaron Fox deal. I think De'Aaron Fox would be a mega star if he was over there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I still maintain to this day, De'Aaron Fox was the best point guard in that draft. And anybody that took a point guard before De'Aaron Fox is an idiot.
I'm not going to call Magic Johnson an idiot, but
well, Magic Johnson is on record saying that De'Aaron Fox is better than Lonzo Ball. So, I mean, even he acknowledges that he made a mistake there. He still tries to defend it, but he did acknowledge that he shouldn't have taken Lonzo Ball.
Everyone makes mistakes. I wouldn't call him an idiot,
though. Whatever, man. I get because we got to get out of here in a couple minutes. I got some things I got to do. Kay got some things he got to do. We had a couple topics, but we're kind of short on time. I will say this: there might be a big trade in the NFL this week. Deshaun Watson might end up in Miami. So now the question is, how does this go about? It seems like they're in deep talks. They still got Tua. Tua just played this past weekend. And I'm a Tua defender, man. Y'all got to stop kidding. Tua. Anybody saying Tua's not that guy at this point in time is overreacting. He's definitely not the best point guard out of point guard. He's definitely not the best quarterback out of that draft. But I mean, relax. Like he doesn't look like straight garbage either. But if you can get Deshaun Watson, you should do it. So the question is, how does it go about? Because Deshaun Watson still has all these legal issues going on right now. Still has law enforcement looking into these cases. Hasn't played yet. So do you give up Tua I would imagine you would have to give up Tua in the trade. But then what are your expectations when getting Deshaun Watson over there? Does he just come right into the game, or do you play Jacoby Brissett and kind of ease him in? And can he play?
I would probably the Dolphins aren't having a great season this year anyway. I would play Jacoby, see how the rest of the season goes, and maybe you hold off on Deshaun Watson and get him ready for next season. Trying to get him in here now mid-season, I think it would be pretty tough. I think that's a move where it's like, not that you tank the rest of the season, but the season wasn't going the way you guys expected it to or planned it to anyway. You make the trade, you should secure Deshaun Watson, and then you get him ready for next season, and you hope that all those legal fees all the legal issues are all wrapped up, and then you get him for the summer, you have him ready for next season.
Yeah. If I'm Miami, that's definitely like one of the questions I'm asking. Like I'm asking those questions to the Texans. I'm definitely asking them to the league. Like if we trade for him, like how's this gonna go? Okay, are we gonna have issues playing him? Like I know you guys are in limbo about what's gonna happen, but from what you can control, what can we do with him if we can bring him in?
If I'm them, I wouldn't expect to see him this year anyway. That's a move for the future. This season's already in the books. It's a move for the future. I wouldn't plan to see him this year, no matter kind of what they do. I would just take the loss, prepare for next season with them. It's going to be tough to get him in there right now anyway.
Right. One more thing before we get out of here, and it's going to be quick because, like I said, we're short on time. Lamar Jackson is the best football player in the game at this moment right now, doing more with less. He just lost one of his offensive linemen. He didn't play with his first-round receiver all year so far. He lost a bunch of people from his defense, lost both of his running backs early on. And what does he do? The man just wins. So I ain't trying to hear all this stuff that you said he couldn't throw. He proved you wrong that he couldn't throw. He's been throwing bombs out there. He's been killing it. I'm done with the okay. And I know you tried to say people gonna be like how they gonna be, but nah, I'm not trying to hear it no more. Lamar Jackson is that guy, and not only is he that guy, but I'm taking them to go to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I mean that's easy to say now with the season that the Chiefs are having and Patrick Mahomes looking like he's coming down to earth a little bit. I think they'll get it together. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's having a great season, and I think they're probably going to finish better than the Chiefs, but I think Patrick Mahomes will be back.
I'm all cool with it, man, but you know what? Lamar, man. I don't think that's a big trust anymore, but he's that guy.
Last thing, Ben Simmons for Kyrie Irving. What you think about it? It solves both of y'all issues.
They should do it.
Kyrie can play in Philly. Ben Simmons gets out of Philly.
If Ben Simmons ends up in Brooklyn, he doesn't have to shoot because he won't need to.
And he's a lockdown defender that Brooklyn needs.
He's a perfect fit for the Nets. Kyrie's a perfect fit for the Sixers. It's just about more like how's Kyrie with things, but I would do it in a heartbeat. Like I think the Nets to me would be like unbeatable too. Ask yourself as an executive, like how much are we helping out the other team here? Because you're still in the same conference at the end of the day.
But you're still helping yourself too. Kyrie, I mean, obviously Kyrie's motivated to play. That's that point guard that they're missing. I think Philly, they still have the shooters around there, and obviously Embiid's Embiid. And Brooklyn does not have an answer for Embiid. So I think Kyrie over there, if he's willing to play, it's a few hours from New York, so you're still close to home. If he's willing to go there and be happy, I think
it's a win-win for both teams, and it makes perfect sense for both teams. Solves every issue both teams have.
Yep, but if I'm Brooklyn, I still won't do the trade.
I feel you. But all right, man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry it was such a short show. We will be back next week, though, with a lot more to talk about. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time.